Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Monday, the 11th of February. So looking at the euro dollar first, and trend wise, well, the euro is still heading south at the moment on this intermediate trend within this larger choppier period. Now, where to then? Because we're getting pretty close to some sort of key support areas. The whole number of 1300 area sort of may come into play. We're pretty close to this monthly S1 pivot. Where to from here? We could get a bounce, and we could get a bounce sooner rather than later. It'd be interesting to see what happens here. But at the moment, the market, I mean, we had a little spike up on Friday and didn't manage to push up any further. I've been looking for sort of some retracements to sell into. Well, we got pretty close to it there on Friday, and it never made it. No cigar, off it sold again. The problem we have at the moment with the euro is the very tight range of pips that are available each day. I mean, on Friday we moved for most of our trading session, we moved around about 26 pips, so it's not looking particularly attractive at the moment for 20-30 pips out of the market. If you're looking for those sort of pips per day, it just isn't happening. It's beginning to be an overnight trade if you're looking at the euro to make anything decent. I mean, last week every day we had relatively small movements, but if you bunch it all up for the whole week, and it looks quite healthy. But it was just having with the daily picture at that time, having the confidence just to hold that what was possibly going to be a bounce there into a trend. Well, anyway, we'll see. I'll update you later on the big picture and where we are sitting with that. But in terms of fundamentals, etc., fundamentals for the euro remain weak, basically in a summary, relative to the US, although the US has gone a little bit softer, but the comparison is the European fundamentals are weaker. So it does lead us to the potential for further sell-off. If, well, I mean, it's looking from a 60-minute point of view. I was just looking at lows at the moment, thinking, well, if we break this, we could see just a bit of more continuation, maybe down to that sort of 113 area, 12,999 I've got on here, 113. It's about 20 pips down there if it starts breaking down, and by the time you get in there, it could be about 15. So it's really quite tight, and there is, as I say, plenty of potential for support there. Any rallies, if it starts breaking through the highs here and starts moving up more solidly, then we've got a weekly pivot sitting right the way up there at 1367, which could be quite attractive, but it could take a couple of days. So very, very slow. Now, of course, I start then looking at other markets, but the pound isn't particularly the easiest one to trade in some respects. I still like, well, technically I still like the short side of this, but we had a small short on Friday. It just didn't work out. It in the end bounced, and that you could say, well, it's consolidating here. It's looking like it's going to bounce more. Well, it could do either, and we know the fundamentals behind it are decidedly tricky. For now, I don't think there's going to be any short-term positive news necessarily, in which case that leaves us maybe to drift to the south side again, heading towards that 4-hourly 200 could be a target. We'll just see what happens this morning. It hasn't yet quite caught up to the daily pivot. It has got the weekly pivot above as well, so if we see a reversal early morning here, well, and it starts getting a bit of momentum, there's the target to the upside short term without even making a new high. That could be achieved. Very pinch pivots today, again, very small movement on Friday. It was very much like trying to make a silk purse out of a pig's ear, as I quite regularly say on Friday for these markets. Yeah, try. Dollar yen, well, dollar yen to me now looks like it's got further upside. Now we ran across some sort of stiff resistance sort of area around the 110, just over 110.02 area. There's plenty of sort of selling coming back into that, but at the moment it looks good for a move towards the break. But it's already, well, it's already moved quite a bit through the Asian session there, relatively. When I say quite a bit, you've got to work out that the scaling on the right here is so pinched, but it may have some more upside potential. We'll be running into some key resistance that just simply in about 12 pips time. So sorry, 14-15 pips time. So it might push and may push further. Sorry, I've gone for some reason got all the way down to a 5-minute chart. There we go. Back to the daily. There we go. But if it starts pushing through, we've got. I'm looking towards that daily 50. At 48, so there's a good 40 odd pips there. It may take just a couple of days to do it, but it's a possibility on that upside. The Aussie, it was the darling. It really got sold off strongly yesterday, last week rather, pushing down. There is a potential it could pitch up for the weekly pivot, in which case that I would use as a sell point from a bit more of a swing to the downside. So we'll be watching that only on that basis. I don't intraday trade it personally because the ranges are often during our session so blinking tight. So it does become an intraday swing or an intraday and a multi-day swing even. And maybe has the potential. It's got the daily pivot drawing it down towards to the downside there. But I mean, we're again, a lot of these markets are just consolidated so much, but it does look like it's got further weakness. And as I said, on the bigger picture, you start coming out here looking at what's going on. Well, I mean, the bigger picture here, you could be looking for something around about that sort of 70 area, where these prior lows were. Okay, Aussie dollar, Canadian dollar. The Canadian dollar, I thought we might have seen a bit more strength coming through following Friday's numbers, etc. It seems to be sticking around a little bit at the moment. It has got the best potential for an interest rate increase if we were looking for markets that are sort of looking more, well, to show some potential strength against the US dollar, but it's failed to do so, and through the Asian session, all it wants to do is carry on pushing to the upside at the moment, maybe back towards that 4-hourly 200. So tough old one there. Again, this is a market I would only look for short, swing trades. It's not great for the intraday. It's a tease. Anyway, looking at what could happen here, we're to the upside. We could, if we start breaking back above that 34, maybe it's got target towards the last Friday's highs there, around about that 33.25. But again, it's not a lot of pips in any of this. Maybe a bit more than what we got in the euro, but not a lot of pips there. Anyway, that's it for me. I'll be back later on today. I'll do a bigger analysis of the markets, look at the big picture, look at the sentiment that's coming through, what we can see of it anyway. So have a great one. Bye for now.